The man on the slab had awoken and immediately began to scream. As the shadowy figure above him moved from the light, the prone figure saw him ostentatiously press a button, and the sound instantly ceased. The control of his vocal cords severed, as he felt a twitching in his very cerebral cortex, his brain. The thing above him hove into view properly, and his ghastly visage would have silenced his victim anyway. It was not the features of his face, the formation of which was clearly human. It was the eyes, those terrible eyes, reflecting a soul so dark, so twisted, that to witness it was akin to looking into the very darkest cavern of evil itself. The lips moved and sound came out, strangely normal for a being who was inarguably wretched at every conceivable level. No, do not tense up, do not fear. You are not to die this day. The figure moved from the light toward a workbench festooned with a host of syringes, utensils, and bubbling concoctions. Like a mad scientist's laboratory, it was replete with arcane objects of past times, forbidden technologies. Huge cylinders containing liquid and the shadows of things that could be human dotted the room. Movement signaled that whatever was within them was by no means dead, and clearly in discomfort, by the way they constantly thrashed and timidly and imploringly thumped on the clear glass-like material of their containers. The mostly bald man continued his ministrations as he spoke, his form much larger than that of a normal human, with whipcord muscles bulging beneath the white of his scrubs. "I know you are a feared little mortal, but you should not be. You should rejoice. You are on the cusp of a magnificent transformation, an elevation of your very fibers, your very form. I am about to raise you up to a height your dreary little mind could not even fathom. You are about to become." He turned toward the constrained subject again and continued. "I am about to give you the gift of power, the gift of intelligence and longevity. When I am through, when I have completed your transformation, you will weep with joy. You will crash to your knees and want to sing with the splendor of your new being, to give homage to me for this gift. Your Lord volunteered you above all others for this gift. You are chosen. Thus will I make of you a god amongst the slime of humanity. You will be a new man. But why do I, a genius, waste my time thus? Simplicity itself. Your Lord has something I want. A drop of blood here, a strain of DNA there. Rare. Enough for a week of my skill alone, but rare nonetheless. Now close your eyes, human. I do not like to witness the fear in them, the terror, when you are actually receiving the greatest of gifts your kind can have. My immortal skill, the result of my almost eternal labors. Rest now, for when you awake, the galaxy itself will be yours to do with as you wish." Welcome, gentle listener. I am Voldemort, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and figures of the Warhammer 40k universe. Today we are taking a look at one of the most grimdark of all characters, a being of almost pure evil, without pity, remorse, or restraint. Fabius Bile. Known amongst the Warhammer community as Fabius Bile, or Fabius Bile the effing Vile. He is a splendid character that it is so easy to love to hate. For Fabius shows another element of the forces that have turned traitor. Many would look to the Chaos Marines as worshippers of the Chaos Gods, and that they strive to gain glory for their deities, reveling in what they call the elevation of the human soul by freeing it from the taut constraints of a false and ignorant paradigm of good and evil. For them, each sword stroke, each bolter discharge, each act of horror is done as a supplication to their dark masters, but not so for Fabius. In Fabius Bile we see another pathway to rebellion and evil, the utter unfettering from all convention, for no other reason than to perform whatever task one wishes, whatever deed, no matter how dire and malign. Fabius does not worship any dark god, not Slanesh, like so many of his Emperor's children brothers, not the Grandfather, the Lord of Skulls, or the Master of Change. Fabius simply does not adhere to the usual morality, and epitomizes the fear that brought light to the story of Frankenstein and his monster, the fear of the physician gone rogue. For the story of Frankenstein is a tale of a man who spits in the face of God and presumes to take on his mantle, that of creator, that of cosmic tinkerer at the very wellspring of life and death. Hence do we now look into the very soul of this, one of my top 10 most horrific humans in this ever so dark setting. Now, let us lean on existing wisdom for the basics of this apothecarian of atrocities. To quote, Fabius Bile, the primogenitor. Fabius Bile is a curse throughout the galaxy, and a renegade even from his own legion. He claims to have unlocked the secrets of the Emperor's work in the creation of the Primarchs. Formerly of the Emperor's children, Bile's fascination was always with the mysteries of life, not death. Amidst the carnage of the heresy, Bile aided the Emperor's children in their inexorable journey into the embrace of Slanesh. He altered their brain chemistry to sharpen their senses and connect their pleasure centers more directly to their nervous system, so that every stimulus would bring them unholy joy. Bile left Terra before Horus's defeat, accompanied by a retinue of altered followers. He moved through the war-torn Imperium like a shard of glass through an intestinal tract, selling his services to rebel commanders for prisoners, genetic samples, and ancient technologies. Many ambitious overlords came to rue the day they let Bile experiment on their armies, until his acts of genocide and other atrocities sickened even the most deranged maniacs. He eventually found his way to the Eye of Terror, where he offered his services to the highest bidders, promising the champions of chaos vile cures for their problems. He then set up a new base of operations upon a crone world. Once it had been home to the best and brightest of the Eldar civilization. Now it was a dark and twisted place of crawling madness. Bile's knowledge of alchemy and genetic manipulation can be tested by every planet he has made contact with, for he has left a trail of foul deviants and twisted abominations wherever his ships have landed. Most of Bile's experiments end with his subjects dead or so horribly deformed they might wish for death. Yet the altered specimens of Bile's efforts exhibit strengths many times greater than the normal human. These are Bile's proudest creations, the new man that forms the pinnacle of his foul art. If a man dedicates his life to good deeds and the welfare of others, he will die unthanked and unremembered. If he exercises his genius bringing misery and death to billions, his name will echo through the millennia for 100 lifetimes. Infamy is always preferable to ignominy. Fabius Bile, the Clone Father. The shattered traitor legions making their home in the Eye of Terror have particular need of Fabius Bile's skills. His augmented warriors and biomagics can give a warband a vital edge, and cloned warriors and slaves are put to good use on 100 battlefields. Yet it was the skills Bile once learned as an apothecary of the Emperor's children that are most precious to the Lords of Chaos. The traitor legions need the ability to extract the progenoid glands of the fallen in order to create new Chaos Space Marines, and in this strange art Bile is undoubtedly preeminent. Without such skills, the long war would slowly grind to a halt, and the fires that Horus had lit would go out forever. With so much influence at his behest, Fabius Bile has negotiated cunning, if fragile, bargains with the demon Primarchs, selling his secrets to each of them, but refusing to aid one more than any other. In this way, the primogenitor ensures his position at the heart of a web of influence that spans across the Eye of Terror and beyond. Of late, he has used his leverage to a singular end: the capture of the Primaris Space Marines sighted across the galaxy. His fondest desire is to harvest the genetic bounty of Primarch Guilliman himself. End quote. This is but an introduction, but this simple entry only alludes to the depths to which this being has sunk. He has done so much, been responsible for so much of the horror of the Horus heresy, yet still stalks the galaxy like a twisted version of the Emperor himself, in his aspect as a sculptor of genetic weapons of war, from Thunder Warriors through to Custodians and the Primarchs and Astartes, his Space Marines. And so it is Bile that attempts to not only replicate, but also to then improve the labours of his grandsire, the Master of Mankind, the Emperor himself. This fiend has cloned Primarchs, has twisted men and women uncounted in his quest to create what he has dubbed the New Man, the Ubermensch. And he is a terror without equal in all of the forces of the Chaos Legions, as it may well be through him that the keys to the Primaris Marines being corrupted, and the entirety of the Chaos Space Marines may, across their very own Rubicon, become a match for the new army of the Imperium. For if anyone can do this deed, it is Fabius Bile. A soul so rotten, a man so degenerated from the thing he was intended to be, that he has been accepted with open arms as a pupil by the very fresh crafters of Cormora. The homunculi themselves saw his talent and deemed him worthy of teaching their own dire crafts. More than anything else, a kinship with these horrors, the most twisted beings in the universe, is all the indicant one might need to form an opinion of Fabius Bile. He has cloned Horus. He has cloned Ferrus Manus multiple times. He has made a perfect clone of his own sire, Fulgrim, the Palatine Phoenix, then sold him into the collection of Trazyn the Infinite, the cosmic collector of the Necrons. He is hated by all, but like his Necron counterpart Oricon, for despite being detested by all he meets, even amongst the traitor Marines, he is a resource so valuable that none dare take his life. He is at least partially responsible for the longevity of the Legions of Evil as well, as it is he who has been engaged again and again to replenish their stocks of gene seed and perpetuate forces that should have been eliminated by attrition millennia ago. Fabius is always questing for more genetic material, more keys to the very codes of life and existence, so he can eventually form what he calls his new man. His goal is everything, and his restraint is non-existent. He will work with anyone to further his learning, his resources. But to deal with Fabius Bile is indeed a Faustian pact, for his gifts are never without cost, never as they were presented on first inspection. Many a populace of entire planets has rued the day they have welcomed him as a savior or a fellow conspirator. For the cost of his services is as naught compared to the corruption and horror of what happens when he leaves the systems he visits. Flesh-twisted beings of incredible strength are child's play for him to create. So oft he is approached by warbands of Chaos Marines, but the product he creates is never quite as was advertised. Never. And it is only when he has left that some then realized what he has done to them in the midst of dazzling them with the bounty of his works. It is always different, but it is always fiendish beyond even the twisted nightmares of even his fellow Chaos Marines. If there is one person that the Imperium should send all of their cadres of assassins, all of their hosts of inquisitors, and all of their bravest warriors to hunt, it surely must be Fabius Bile. For if he unlocks the keys to the Primaris, then the forces of Chaos will cross the Rubicon in their droves, a thing all should fear. And if he wished, if he really wanted, if he bent his entire will to it, he could create clones of Primarchs aplenty. The confusion, the terror he could unleash on the galaxy is hard to even compute, let alone calculate. Fabius Bile, in my mind, should ever be public enemy number 1. And when all of the introductions are performed, I very much look forward to further exploring the detestable doings of this, one of the most infamous and dangerous beings in the galaxy. I have been Voldemort, your faithful servant. If you have enjoyed this woefully brief introduction to Fabius Bile, then do please consider liking and subscribing. If you do so, then please do consider pressing the notification button. I would not wish you to miss out. If you are a regular gentle listener, then do also consider sharing the video or supporting us on Patreon. Producing this content does take a very long time and much effort, and would not want to be forced to put adverts in the midst of the videos to eke out a tiny bit more revenue, as I feel this would destroy the flow of the entries that we presently all enjoy. Now, no matter what you do today, do remember to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.